Hello, so this is my first ever voiceover for a video. I hope this is not going to be all over the place because I've already tried like 10 times to get this thing going. But yeah. So this is a recording of me painting with my Gansai Tambi paints, my character in his Halloween getup. So I'm going to explain my process here a little bit, and then, like, while I'm sketching, and then I'm going to explain the character. I'm realizing now that I forgot to add his cute little stitches in that you'll see added in just a moment. But he is supposed to be a mix between Frankenstein's monster and Jekyll and Hyde, kind of like all those combined. He is very much like a cyborg, like by default, like that's his normal deal, he's a cyborg. So I thought it would be fun to kind of do that because he's kind of chopped up in places and has bionic parts. Kind of like a Frankenstein's monster that's just been put together. There's me adding the bolts, blah blah blah. Sketching with the paint itself because I don't believe in pencils sometimes. Sometimes I really like pencils, sometimes I just feel like jumping right in. I don't care if you see the lines through the work so much. At certain times, you know, I've kind of learned to embrace the sketchiness as part of the process and part of the final result. Plus, like, erasing pencil is a nightmare with watercolor paper. This is so cheap, by the way, the watercolor paper. Here's me realizing that I'm not really liking what's going on with that hand. I tried to add a syringe, and then I try to wipe it out. But it doesn't work since the paper is so cheap. It just kind of like tears it up a little bit, but that's whatever. Yada yada, his little eyeball martini, and then I promptly forget to draw the stem and the base of the glass of it, but don't worry, we fix that later. This is what happens when you just kind of do stuff as you go. So the syringe will come back in just a moment. Here's me trying to figure out how to do that. So I had to Google syringe in hand. Google is your friend when it comes to looking up references, and you should always look up references. Here's me actually drawing it this time. Normally he just has 2 extra arms on his left side, which is 1 more arm than people normally do, but I imagine it's Halloween, so he can have an extra arm. He can have 4 arms. He does actually gain a bunch more arms later in his character arc, which I call the web. I can explain that another time, but there's me adding buttons, yada yada. And then I jump right into the colors here with a more Frankenstein's monster palette with green. He's normally very just purple on that side, but I do add some of the purple down at the bottom. So I think now that I've sketched this thing out, I can explain his character a little bit more. So like I said, he's a cyborg, and he is a roboticist and AI expert. And I'm not talking about like whatever the hell is going on with AI right now. I mean like actual like computer intelligence, like like I'm not talking about making phony art with like whatever generators people are using. He's like actually doing computer intelligence, and his main computer assistant mainframe is integrated into his bionics. So he had an accident in the lab where something blew up and he was in dire condition. He's been through a lot. he is now stable, but very, I want to say sardonic. He's very, like, jaded, very effed up. He's been through it, and the main thing about his character arc is that he has undiagnosed ADHD and a twin brother named Eon Lune, who outshines Phase Lune, Phase being him. And so after he kind of gets his bearings, he integrates Mainframe into his computer system, into his body. Really smart, by the way, to do that. Really, really good move on his part to do that, especially since Mainframe learns on Phase's behavior, just like a kid would. Mainframe is Phase's creation, so it's kind of like that's where the Frankenstein part, like, and the Frankenstein's monster part comes in. He kind of integrated his creation into his own body. And so the thing about being a very self-deprecating person like Phase is that your computer is going to learn based off of that. So Mainframe is very hard on Phase and very counterproductive. Really likes to go based on like a neurotypical idea of productivity. Very difficult to work with. Over time, Mainframe actually gains control over Phase's body parts, which is a huge thing. Not his like meat parts, but his robotics. So 2 arms he has control over and 1 leg, and also he's kind of integrated into, if you see on the Phase's left side of his face with the big teeth, that is his mask that has a digital screen on it. That is also displaying Mainframe, his face. So it's a huge thing where Phase has to regain control of himself without Mainframe's control. By the way, these Gansai Tambis are really good at lifting and also really good at layering, which I like a lot. They're really fun. It's like a very relaxing way to use paints, if you know how to use them. I say it's like a mix between gouache and watercolor, with more of the glossiness of watercolor. But where was I? So he is pretty much boned. He is like in a dire situation. Phase, personality-wise, blah blah blah, he's like really, really rude, I guess. He can be pretty rude, but he's actually like scared as hell, like all the time. He's got like major anxiety and actually severe agoraphobia. He hardly goes out of his house, and like it's kind of a running thing where he orders food all the time instead of cooking, and so like he actually later on gets to like know his delivery driver, who's always like, you know, like their in-world version of Ubering food all the time to his house. It's really funny. He kind of ends up being Phase's sidekick when he turns into a supervillain of sorts. I don't know whether to call him a villain or a hero in this case. More like a cyber terrorist, which you did not really call a hero. But, you know, he's got his reasons, just like every villain, or I guess terrorist. I'm not going to go into that right now, especially with the news going on. But he is a terrorist later on, like a cyber terrorist. He's very intelligent, actually, but he's just got undiagnosed ADHD and doesn't know how to control it. He is like a very telltale story of like the self-destruction you can give yourself, and the self-destructive tendencies that can destroy you. Obviously that's what self-destructing does, it destroys you, but it's very, very close to home to me, which is how a lot of my writing ends up being. It tends to run along that vein. So he is kind of like a don't do this story for me, which is a lot of my characters. I kind of make characters who are like, don't do this, don't do that, otherwise you'll be fucked. Like oops, I said the F word. You'll be fucked like they are. So yeah, it's just like, I love writing those kind of characters where they just make mistakes all the time. For some reason, I just love that. I just love making characters who are going through tragic, horrendous things and then seeing how they come out on top. It's just fun. I don't know. Maybe I'm sadistic in that way, but I just really find it hits home more in that way. What else can I say about Phase? He loves Thai food. That's true. He does. He loves Thai food. He loves Asian food a lot. Sushi. He's very rich. He is actually like loaded. His parents were very, very renowned roboticists as well. And his brother is, like I mentioned, Eon Lusk, was going to be his name because he was going to marry a man named Don Lusk. But Don died in a very comedic way, and so Eon Lune is widowed with his company Lunar Lusk, which is basically a robotics company as well. I think that I'm so smart for the Eon Lusk joke. For real though, it was really funny to me at the time. It's still so funny to me. I'm patting myself on the back really hard here, if you can hear it. But yeah, he hates his brother because his brother was the reason why he had that accident in the first place. You know, when you know something's gonna go wrong, so you just shove somebody else at it and see what happens. That's basically what Eon did to Phase, and Phase got blown up into bits. Phase has a bunch of helper robots around the house, or the mansion actually. He lives in a mansion. So they kind of called 911 for him when he had the accident. Another fun fact is that Phase's head can come off, and he stays alive via like remote connection, kind of like a USB head. There is a crazy scientist lady also, like, who preys upon the downtrodden and down on their luck and kind of suicidal men in society. That's kind of like awesome of her, but also not. It's really terrible. It's actually really terrible, but she's kind of awesome. It's all fake here, guys. This is not real people. But so Phase kind of fell into that category of like downtrodden down on his luck. Like, he was paralyzed from the neck down. He could not move his body, and he had a choice of either having this corrective surgery that would also pop his head off, or just be paralyzed for the rest of his life. And he kind of wanted to die already, so he was like, whatever, I'll do it. And he survived, and it worked, and everything turned out quote-unquote great. Body, that's her name, the scientist, she was all like, oh, cool. Her name is Body Bags, if that's funny to anybody. I love her. So, adding the finishing touches on this thing, yada yada. I love how this painting turned out. I know I kind of BS'd it on a lot of areas, but I just wanted to draw like zombie phase, monster phase, whatever you want to call him. This will probably be my new Discord profile picture, and then I will post this to the art scratch server that I'm a part of. I should probably link that also so that people can join it. But yeah, it's an art server that I'm a part of that's really nice and cozy. And shout out to all of you guys in there. I know that Discord is a scary place. So, yeah, just putting it out there. What else do I have to say about him? I like him. He's sexy. He's also a failure. I think that's kind of sexy also. He's my fail boy, and I relate to him very muchly. He goes through a lot of like character development through his existence in my brain, because it's not on paper yet, it's just in my brain, and I tell people about it when they ask. But yeah, Phase is a very beloved character of mine. I like him a lot. I've had him for quite a while, quite a few years, but I've only really started recently developing him, kind of in the past few years, like the past year or two. Here's me adding some red, because I wanted to make some semblance of him existing outside the void. I'm just imagining he's on his slab that's also red for some reason, because, I don't know, he's serving, he's slaying. Here's the close-up. Isn't that gorgeous? You can't really see all that detail from afar, can you? But now you can. It is... Look at how I BS the foot. I did not do anything for that foot. I just focused on his face and then said F it to all of the other parts. Like, there you go. There's his leggies. And there's him. Ta-da. And here's the finished painting all together. I'll probably be posting this to my Tumblr, which is linked in my channel. I might link it below. I might not. I might be a liar. But I'm not promising nothing. So, yeah. I hope you enjoyed this video and that it wasn't too all over the place. Bye-bye.